Hello, and welcome to the Flick Advisor. Today we're going to review John Wick Chapter 2. John Wick Chapter 2 is directed by Chad Stahelski. He came into the game as a stuntman, that's how he got into films. And so this is reflected in the work. This is reflected in John Wick and John Wick Chapter 2. Stunts are a heavy part of this film, and it's good to see that kind of fresh take on a movie. Now, of course, John Wick Chapter 2 is a sequel to the surprise hit John Wick. Nobody saw John Wick coming. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and everybody pretty much who's seen it loved it. John Wick Chapter 2 is an action lover's dream. If you love action movies, there's almost no way you'll be disappointed with John Wick Chapter 2. Or John Wick 1 if you haven't seen it. So John Wick Chapter 2 is action that's directed brilliantly, which is a godsend for this genre. Something's gone on in the last, 15 years where people forgot that action can be well directed and you can have action and actually see what's happening on the screen. It was like for a little while everybody wanted to be the Wachowskis and make a wannabe Matrix film, and finally people outgrew that after that got tired. And then for a little while everybody wanted to be Zack Snyder and have their action look like 300 in terms of the action, and I'm glad everybody grew out of that, including Zack Snyder. He's directed more interesting action since then. He's kind of redefined his style. I say around the mid-2000s, people all wanted their films to look like the Bourne films, or at least the action in the Bourne films. Don't get me wrong, Paul Greengrass does a brilliant job in the Bourne films directing the action, and he has editors who cut it together well for him, and it flows. Not everybody can do that, but everybody sure is trying. I believe the reason quick cuts and shaky cam hasn't gone away is because it allows directors and filmmakers to hide the stuntman and to hide the fact that, maybe their action star doesn't know how to fight or hasn't had fight training or weapons training. You could throw your stuntman in there, shake up the cam a lot. You could throw your stuntman in there, shake up the cam. All you have to do really is get shots of it, get shots of the action, from a bunch of different angles, but not really clear so the viewer can't really focus on it, and cut it around so it looks like maybe it stitches together, and hopefully the viewer puts two and two together and they see that this guy threw a punch, it hit the other person, and he flew back. In John Wick Chapter 2, however, this isn't the case. In John Wick Chapter 2, we have nice, long, steady shots and smooth cuts. So we can clearly see the action, and we can clearly see that this is Keanu Reeves in a majority of the movie, not a stunt double, doing his gunfighting movements and even his martial arts movements. That's really important for this type of movie, because this type of movie is trying to be all-out action. I think it's important to note that while this movie is trying to be all-out action, it's still trying to be a movie, not just action scenes strung together. This was an issue I had with Shoot 'Em Up. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but Shoot 'Em Up was supposed to be an action lover's wet dream, but it was really just some interesting gunfights tied together by a string of a story. John Wick is actually well directed, well written, well acted, and so this sets it apart from that type of movie in this genre. I say all that to say this. Hopefully people will see John Wick Chapter 2 and the original John Wick and start trying to copy that style. If people start copying that style and try to emulate that, we're in for some good action movies in the upcoming future. Now, with all that out of the way, John Wick Chapter 2 is about our favorite retired international assassin, John Wick.
I'm back!
He is forced back into this life, and he doesn't miss a beat after a price is put on his head.
I
Accounts payable, how may I help you?
I'd like to open an account.
Name on the account?
John Wick.
So, as with the last movie, Keanu Reeves plays the part of John Wick perfectly. He doesn't really have to show off his acting chops in this role as his character.
Rough night.
Rough night. I'll kill them all. Yeah.
John Wick is a man of little words and a lot of action. Where some say Keanu Reeves might lack in acting ability or acting chops or range, he more than makes up for in the physicality he brings to the role. It's clear that Keanu Reeves has a background, some type of background in martial arts, and he's taken weapons training for John Wick and John Wick Chapter 2.
We took Keanu through a lot of three-gun training. Speed draws, transitions, fast trigger pulls.
In this movie, he moves like somebody who killed 84 people in the last film. Ian McShane does most of the real acting in the movie as Winston, the welcoming but somehow still menacing manager of the Continental. Both Common and Ruby Rose play their parts well and convincingly as rival hitmen. Now, we all got excited when we watched the trailer and we see Lawrence Fishburne, Morpheus, come out in it. Essentially, it's a cameo. He has a little bit more lines than what we see in the trailer, but for the most part, it's a cameo, to make us old Matrix fanboys happy. Another thing I really like about this film is it explores that mysterious underground hitman world we were shown glimpses of in the last film. It delves a little bit more deeply into that. We start to learn a little bit more about the Continental. We start to learn a little bit more about this society, and we learn a little bit more about Winston as the manager of the Continental. We get a shot at the end where we see what kind of pull this man really has. If there's a negative I have to give about this movie, it's the reason for John Wick coming back isn't as primal. His dog doesn't get killed again. His new dog doesn't die. His wife can't die again. He's forced back into this life through other means, and those means aren't as primal as in the previous movie. That's looking for a problem with this movie.
I can't help you.
You know the rules. If you don't do this, you know the consequences.
Also, I enjoyed how they set up the sequel. It's not sequel baiting. It's not trying to force a sequel. I believe the end of John Wick Chapter 2 is extremely satisfying. But it sets it up in such a way where it's like, oh man, what's going to happen next? Like, the next John Wick is going to be absolutely crazy. And so the end of this movie really gets you excited for that. I can't wait. For fans of action, John Wick Chapter 2 is an easy 9 out of 10. This is a must-watch for action movie fans. That's really all there is to say about that. Thank you.